All-Star Futures Game. A chance to see your stars of tomorrow today.
Gone! Soriano's done it again.
Barry Zito with a chance to go 1-2-3.
Goodbye home run!
Whoa, did he get that one? Gap shot by Reyes. That scores 3 runs. An RBI single for Justin Morneau. From U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago, it's the Radio Shack 2003 All-Star Futures Game. Who will be the next Alfonso Soriano, Barry Zito, or Adam Dunn? We may find out on All-Star Sunday as the USA team takes on the World team. This game has proven to be a launching pad for the next generation of baseball stars. We're delighted you're with us for the 5th year in a row. I'm Dave O'Brien, along with the experts, Peter Gammons, and 3,000 hit man Tony Gwynn. Thanks so much for joining us in Chicago. And Peter, when you look at this ball game and what it represents to the young kids, they have a chance on this gorgeous sunny day in Chicago to become superstars at some point, but maybe it begins tonight.
Well, Dave, baseball is a traditional game, but it's very important for baseball to celebrate its future just as much as its past. And this is the game that's been that celebration. And we've seen the Zitos and the Sorianos. I mean, look, Francisco Rodriguez pitched in this game last year and helped the Angels get to the World Series. And now we see other players have played in that game like Cabrera and Morneau and Reyes. And Tony, there's some players in this game today who are a huge part of baseball's future.
Well, no question about it. I mean, 2 guys you're going to see today. Rich Harden, who's going to pitch for the World team as a member of the Oakland A's organization, is a guy that is going to remind you today of Tim Hudson. I mean, he's same kind of stature, fastball in the mid-90s, split and change up to go along with it. He's 11-4 overall in the 2 stops that he's had on the minor league side. The other guy, Joe Mauer, is a catcher with the Minnesota Twins. He's playing for Team USA today. He was the guy that was chosen in front of Mark Pryor with the #1 pick by the Minnesota Twins. 6'4", hits the ball, very, very smooth stroke. Is a lot like a Rafael Palmeiro. He's not going to swing very hard. He's going to be real smooth. The thing that's really going to impress you is him behind the plate. He's 6'4", 220, handles the pitchers, handles the ball, throws the ball very well, too. So both of these guys, I think you're going to see in the big leagues real soon.
Guys, looking forward to it. The 4th man on our crew is Gary Miller. We'll be back with Gary down on the field in just a moment. They indeed are tomorrow's superstars. You see them today jumping right off the baseball card and onto your screen. Your very first look at them. For 4 years, the All-Star Futures Game has allowed the frontline minor leaguers the chance to shine, and the 2003 edition is next.
The Radio Shack All-Star Futures Game, brought to you by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball, and in part by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
Gary Miller with you here for the 2003 Sunday All-Star for the Futures Game, and I'll be with the dugouts, including Carlton Fisk's Team USA. Now, Carlton Fisk had a pitching coach named Dave LaRoche in his days with the White Sox here on the South Side, and the last time he saw Adam LaRoche, he was about this tall. Well, now Adam LaRoche is his starting first baseman, the cleanup hitter for this team. His dad is still a pitching coach. He's in the Royals organization with Omaha right now. He couldn't make it to the game, but we will talk to Adam later on a lot of these players. Dave, back up to you.
A look there at Carlton Fisk, the original Pudge, the 10-time All-Star, one of the American League's premier catchers for nearly 2 decades. And his opponent today will be Tony Oliva. He's managing the World team, native of Cuba, won the batting title 3 times in the American League. His actual name is Pedro, but he used his brother's passport to enter the United States back in 1961. He's been Tony ever since. That's going to be kind of a running theme throughout our telecast today. A lot of the World Team members were named something else. And a little name change as they take center stage here today. We look at the starting 9 now for Tony Oliva. At the very top of the order, one of the guys who did change his name, the second baseman, Ramon Nibar. In right field, it'll be Alexis Gomez. Rene Reyes is a switch-hitting first baseman. LaForest is from Quebec, Canada. Franklin Gutierrez is a slugger out of the Dodger organization. The catcher is Quiros. He is from Venezuela. Alexis Rios in center. Andy Marte, he's from the Dominican Republic. And Jose Castillo is the shortstop, a very strong arm at that position. And now the rest of them, the reserves for the World All-Star team. Fascinating story on Felix Pie of the Cubs right now at Class A. Maybe a hot ticket onto the major leagues, but a fascinating story about how he was signed. But I know, Peter Gammons, you love all of those stories, and so many terrific tales, including this one, the left-hander Neil Kotz. He will pitch for the United States team. He is 8-3 coming in. He might pitch for a big income right in this ballpark one day.
Well, absolutely. Matter of fact, he's having a lot of fun going signing autographs from all the fans. But he was traded from Oakland to Chicago in the Keith Falk, Billy Koch deal. He and Rich Harden were actually teammates last year at Midland in the Texas League. He's got a nice little high-riding fastball, curveball. He has been sensational for the White Sox this year.
He's a strikeout guy. Doesn't throw overly hard, but we are set to play the Futures game here, 2003 in Chicago. And the left-hander's first pitch is rack fair inside the third base line by Nevar. He hits first, headed on to second. And in with a stand-up double. So right away swinging a bat. Tony Gwynn, you made the point a couple hours ago. We're not going to get a lot of time to tell stories because they're not going to be in the batter's box very long.
You know what? You're right. And, you know, everybody wants to come into this game and make an impression. And, you know, the coaches were talking about before the game, just go play your game. Just do what you do. But sometimes you get to these exhibitions, these games like this where, you know, the world is watching. Guys tend to want to go ahead and hack at the pitch early in the camp.
Alexis Gomez, the right fielder, he takes a strike, batting .256 in the minors right now with 6 home runs. He's 22 years old, out of the Kansas City Royals organization.
What's, of course, one of the great stories of this year is the fact that the Kansas City Royals are in first place and playing so well with Tony Pena. They're now, you know, everybody thought they would be a seller. They are now a buyer. They're trying to get a bat. They're trying to get a reliever. And Alexis Gomez is one of the guys that they have been shopping to bring them some talent.
Gomez slaps that one foul. We were talking about the name changes, and the man who just led off with a double, Ramon Nevar, out of the Dominican Republic. He's with the Texas Rangers organization. For his first 5 seasons in the Texas farm system, he was named something else.
Yeah, it was Martinez, Ramon Martinez. He changed the name right before the Rule 5 draft so that the Rangers had him in as Ramon Nevar, and he could have been drafted by any major league team. He went, nobody knew who he was, and now he's been moved to center field, and he's going to probably be their center fielder next year.
Well, he's batting in the 340s under this name, Ramon Nevar. I think he's going to keep it. It's worked out pretty well for him. Slap foul at the plate by Gomez.
You know, it's a very superstitious sport. You know, hitting 343.
It wouldn't be a bad deal, though. Every time you go into a slump, just change your name.
Yeah.
Pick up something. I'd choose Ted Williams.
Yeah, me too.
That's where I'd go first.
Stan Musial.
Stan Musial, yeah. Or Tony Gwynn. That would help. Fouled off again by the pesky Gomez. Neil Kotz, 6'2", 200 pounds, out of Belleville, Illinois. Right now at Double-A. That's the Southern League, where he's 8-3 with a 197 earned run average. Peter, how close is he?
He's pretty close, because, you know, when the White Sox were doing the Alomar and Everett deals, he was one of 2 players they would not discuss in any trade. He and they feel that he's the guy closest to the big leagues.
Well, he strikes out Gomez, caught him looking, and that'll bring up the switch hitter, Rene Reyes, who is a Colorado Rockies prospect and a guy who holds the bat like Manny Ramirez. Watch how high he gets it up in the air. He'll be batting on the right side, hitting .343 in the minors right now. He'll get that up there behind his knee, behind his ear, and that one is going to be not in time on the toss down to third base. A steal by Nevar. So he's trying to make an impression right away against Joe Mauer.
That's good baseball. Is really, you know, Gomez couldn't get the job done moving that runner from second to third, and so Nevar said, "I'll just steal it."
So he gets down to third base, and on deck, Pete LaForest.
You know, any young player, I mean, he's now playing in center field. A leadoff hitting center fielder is so valuable. And with all the bats, the Blaylocks and the Teixeiras and the Lane Snickses that they have in Texas, I mean, he could be a huge, you know, he could be a huge part of that Texas team. That's the one position they don't really have right now, is center field among their young players.
Reyes has hit 5 home runs in the minor leagues, 45 runs batted in. He is burly, 5'10", about 210 pounds, from Por Lamar, Venezuela, as he lobs that foul out of play.
He's a converted catcher, and he's been playing some in the outfield, some at first. Obviously, with Todd Helton, He's not going to end up playing first in Colorado, so they've been trying to get him to play left field. I think that it may be a little difficult because that ballpark demands so much speed in the outfield.
Rattled foul again. It's Tony's kind of built like a wrestler as the others wait their turn on both sides. The USA team and the world team. We're going to get a chance to see just about everybody, I think. Although that was kind of interesting. You were talking with Carlton Fisk yesterday, who is managing this United States team, and right now, I don't even know if in his mind he feels like he can get everybody into the game, but he had an interesting take on that.
Yeah, he said, am I supposed to win this game or am I supposed to play everybody? You know, is there any, you know, maybe in the AAA World Series, somebody gets a home team advantage if
Now the game is going to go 7 innings. And we'll see who winds up on top in this one. No scores. We just get it started. And Carlton Fisk, a Hall of Famer. Tony Oliva, great hitter throughout his major league career. Off the fist, and a very pesky at bat by Rene Reyes. And if you're a general manager or a scout, you got an eye on a potential trade in the future, maybe a guy like Reyes. Tony, how much does an at bat like this reflect on how much you might want him?
Well, there's no question that it comes into play. I mean, he's fouling off some pretty good pitches right here.
This is the 9th pitch of the at bat, and he takes it low. He looks like he has a very good eye.
And the other thing is, you know, that there's people from just about every organization here to watch these guys play today, and so you can always make an impression on somebody. And so I tried to watch during batting practice.
Chased one out of the zone there, but a pretty good fastball by Neil Kotz, and he strikes out his second man in a row.
Yeah, you try to watch in batting practice to see who has a pretty good idea, and Reyes did. He moved the ball around today in batting practice, but you know, Kotz goes up the ladder there with a good fastball, and you try to pull that ball, you're just not going to catch up with it.
Tony, I mean, this is something that Rich Harden has been talking. I mean, Rich Harden is a little bit like Palmer, Jim Palmer, in that he's got that little jumping fastball with the strike zone. We see Kotz pitch up. You hear guys say, "Oh, you can't pitch up." But as a hitter,
you can pitch up. I mean, we've seen Woody Williams this year with the Cardinals. Likes to pitch up in the zone. Likes to go up in the zone because mechanically, in order to hit that ball, you got to be pretty precise.
Well, the DH is employed in the Futures game, and here's the man for the world team, Pete LaForest. He's from Quebec, Canada. 276, 10 home runs for the season. Originally signed in 1995 with the Montreal Expos. He actually played 2 seasons for them in the Gulf Coast League.
Well, he's another converted guy that's got a pretty good bat. And you know one thing, in Tampa Bay, if you can hit it all, Lou Piniella is going to give you a chance.
You know, Devil Ray signed him in 1997. Montreal actually voided his contract because he had a bad back problem. He had bulging discs in his back, and they voided his contract, as was their right. So he actually went back to school, got drafted again, signed by the Devil Rays in 1997. And here he is in the 2003 All-Star Futures game in Chicago. Has a chance for an RBI, too, with a fastball missed down and in.
Kotz has been very impressive here. You know, after the leadoff double, the first pitch double, you know, he's struck out the next 2 guys and is, you know, is moving the ball in and out and changing speeds.
Well, he's trying to strike out the side after Nevar led off with a double and then a stolen base. He has thrown a lot of pitches for the first inning.
I don't think they run an inning-by-inning pitch count, though.
I don't think so, no. Well, he's only pitching the 1 inning anyway.
Yep.
That's how it works. The managers, for the most part, will stick to that to try and get as many arms in there as they can. Down low for ball 4. So LaForest is on, representing the Devil Rays. Runners on the corners, and Franklin Gutierrez, who has more home runs than anybody on either side coming into today. He's at 17 in the Dodger organization.
Well, he is one of the crown jewels of that organization. You know, since there's been a little changeover in Los Angeles with Dan Evans and Billy Bavasi and so forth, there isn't a lot at the top of their organization, but they are just loaded from AA on down, and he is one of the jewels.
And he's also hitting a lot of those home runs with Tommy Lasorda watching from the stands in Vero Beach in Dodger Town. That's where he is at Single A. Tommy here today, the Hall of Fame manager of the Dodgers. Down and in. I'll tell you what, Kotz works quickly. The left-hander gets it, and he throws it.
I think the one thing and we see a little bit of it here, Kotz has 99 strikeouts in 73 innings in Double-A, but he's also walked 45 guys, so command is still a little bit of a problem for him.
Barely missed. He misses. He does not miss by much. Gutierrez, however, has had an issue with swings and misses. He struck out 95 times in 89 games. This is just his second year in professional baseball. Obviously, he has outstanding power. Right back to the net with that foul, and it's 2-2.
You could have bet the farm that he was looking for the heater right there, and he was going to take a good whack at it. And once again, Peter, balls up in the zone a little bit. It's kind of very tough mechanically to be able to do things right and get on top of that ball.
2 on and 2 out, and that one drifted away. So he's gone full on another hitter. 3-2 as the World team tries to strike first here in the opening inning. We're in the top half of the first in Chicago. And Kotz delivers. Popped up along the right field line. That's slicing, but it drops foul. So Kotz trying to get out of the inning, and he has one more strike to get. And if he does strike out Gutierrez, he'll have 3 Ks in the opening frame, and that's certainly something on his resume to do that against a lineup like this in the Futures game. But he has thrown 31 pitches. So not a brisk first inning for Neil Kotz. From the stretch, here he comes again. And again, it's fought off by Franklin Gutierrez.
And all of it is not Kotz's doing. I mean, Reyes had a at-bat where he fouled off 6 or 7 pitches, and now Gutierrez is doing the same thing. He's throwing balls in the strike zone. Hitters are just doing a good job of fouling it off.
Here's the payoff. Hit hard, a base hit. That'll bring in a run. Nevar will score. Gutierrez picks up the RBI. LaForest into second. So an excellent at bat by the 20-year-old Franklin Gutierrez, who is showing you a little something with a long AB like that against a tough lefty.
And Kotz did move the fastball around a lot of spots in the strike zone. There he put the ball down and away, and he stayed with it. He jammed him, about 5 pitches that he fouled off. He went down and away, and he singled into right field.
Good hitting by Gutierrez. He didn't try to pull that ball, just went right with it. Drove in the run.
So that'll bring up Guillermo Quiroz, who is from Venezuela, hitting .282, 13 homers, 53 runs batted in. Quiroz has good power. He's said to have a very strong throwing arm. He's been a star since he was a little leaguer in Maracaibo, Venezuela. He was actually the catcher for the 1994 Venezuelan Little League World Champions.
Wow. Well, he has been one of the stories of the Blue Jay organization. They've moved a couple of guys up out of Double-A, but their New Haven Farm Club is one of the most talented prospect teams in the minor leagues, and he has now become the #1 catching prospect in that organization. And probably 2 years from now, will be behind the plate. The Blue Jays have just loaded with young guys, and especially up the middle with Aaron Hill and Russell Adams and Quiroz and Rios, who we see later.
Yep, Alexis Rios, who is also on that New Haven Ravens team, and they are paired up today in the Futures game as well. Orlando Hudson and Vernon Wells of the big league Blue Jays. They played in the Futures game as minor leaguers. Of course, Vernon Wells just having a fantastic first half and an all-star. Just a brilliant first half.
He's a fabulous player. I mean, he's not only a very good center fielder, but he can really hit.
Chopped to third. Chad Tracy has it. Guns it over to Adam LaRoche, and the side is retired. But a couple of hits for the World team. An RBI single by Franklin Gutierrez, and they have taken the lead behind Rich Harden. We'll get a look at the kid from British Columbia when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago in the Radio Shack 2003 All-Star Futures game at U.S. Cellular Field. 1-0. The World team has the lead. A look now at the USA lineup, and they started in center field with David Kenzel. Grady Sizemore in left. Chad Tracy, the third baseman, with Adam LaRoche. His dad used to be a big league pitcher. He's at first base. David Kelton represents the Cubs. He's the DH. Steven Smitherman in right field. Joe Mauer, probably the brightest star here today on either side. The Twins prospect, hitting .335. Chris Burke at second base, and J.J. Hardy is the shortstop. He's out of the Milwaukee system. And now look at the reserves. And we'll get to see just about all of them today in all likelihood. And how about that name, Josh Barfield? That Barfield, Tony Gwynn, that rings a bell.
Yeah, he's the son of former Yankee Blue Jay Jesse Barfield. And it's amazing. I was watching him take batting practice today. Swung the bat exactly like his dad. Just unbelievably similar. Unbelievable.
Well, the pitcher, the right-hander, Rich Harden. He is out of British Columbia, 6'1". Peter, the right-hander, 180 pounds.
Well, take a good look at him because he's going to be pitching for the A's either Friday or Saturday next week. This is his minor league swan song. He's been a phenomenon. He comes from British Columbia. Chris Burke was saying, you can't, unlike most guys who are over the top, the ball explodes out of his hand. He's got that high riding fastball, very good split. He's got a pretty good breaking ball. But he said to me, well, when he was a goon playing defense in hockey, they told him he was too small. And I said, forget it. Tim Hudson's 5'11", 161 pounds, and he's one of the winningest pitchers in baseball. So don't worry about it.
Harden 11-4 for AAA Sacramento with an ERA of 2.74. In pitching to David Kenzel, who's in center field, lefty hitter out of the Brewers system. He reminds some scouts of Johnny Damon. His good speed.
Or Steve Finley. I think I've heard a lot. He's a nice player. Good defensive player, leadoff hitter.
He looks a little in the face like Johnny Damon. Grady Sizemore up next. And that's a quick walk. So Kenzel is on. He has 30 stolen bases so far in the minor league, so watch out here.
By the way, Burke has had a pretty good look at Harden. He Round Rock faced Sacramento the first two. Midland his first two starts, both perfect games.
Too much of a look at him. Yeah. Sizemore, the 20-year-old, and he is out of AA Akron at the moment. The runner goes. Quiros with the throw and into the runner, and it may have struck Kenzel. Nice backup on the play by Nevar, but a stolen base for David Kenzel, so he wasted no time going on the very first pitch.
Kenzel had made his mind up he was going to go on the first pitch and got a pretty good jump. Was able to get in there. And, Peter, we were talking about Harden in the beginning. I mean, it's easy to see.
Comebacker may have got a piece of it, but it's off his glove and into center field. Here comes Krenzel. Here comes Rios' throw to the plate. Not in time. He slides in, and he's safe with the run to make it 1-1. An RBI single by Grady Sizemore. He was swinging early, chasing the very first offering.
Yeah, it's easy to see why so many people like him. I mean, even though he gives up the base hit right here up the middle, he's throwing nice and easy. Not a whole lot of effort in throwing 93, 94 miles an hour as the tie and run scores, but pretty impressive.
So that'll bring up Chad Tracy, playing third base today. The number 7 overall pick by Arizona in the 2001 draft. And he takes low ball 1.
He's about the only one that hasn't come up from Tucson to contribute to the Diamondbacks. This guy can just hit, but we were talking about how it's just been so great for all the players in that organization to have the Cadas and the Webbs and all those guys go up to Arizona, keep them in the pennant race until Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling come back. He was saying it makes him feel that he has a better chance to play in the big leagues.
It makes everybody in the organization feel that way. When you're, shuttling guys up to the big leagues, they're getting a chance to contribute and can step in and get the job done until they recover from their injuries.
1-1 pitches right through there, and that has to be a breath of fresh air throughout the organization, because 2 or 3 years ago, with all the veterans there at Arizona at the big league level, there was a logjam every place.
Well, it also, I think, says a lot about Bob Brenly and his ability to just go, oh, I'm a veteran manager. No, he's taken all these kids and done a great job with them.
Totally agree.
Big swing and a miss to a good fastball. Tracy could not catch up. And a count 2-2. A 1-1 tie here in the 2003 All-Stars Futures Game. Peter Gammons, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien, and Gary Miller with you from Chicago and U.S. Cellular Field, which will be the site of Tuesday night's All-Star Game right here. He went right back to the same spot and smoked him with a fastball about 92 miles an hour, and Tracy whiffs for the out.
I guess he can throw the ball up in the strike zone. Yeah.
And Tracy tried to get his hands where he could get on top of that ball, but fastball had a little bit too much giddy up on it.
So that brings up the first baseman, Adam LaRoche, who's hitting .278 with 15 home runs. And Peter, he almost made the Atlanta Braves roster this past spring. I know that Bobby Cox, for a while there, flirted with the idea of using him as a backup to Robert Fick, right?
Yes, he's a good defensive first baseman. He's got power, and he's a baseball guy. I mean, you can tell he was raised in it. I mean, he's got a brother, Andy LaRoche, who's been playing in the Cape Cod League, who was the best positional player in the league until unfortunately hurt his leg a couple of days ago, but is going to go to Rice this next year. There's just something about it. They were raised with baseball. They know how to play. And Adam and Andy are, and they both have the same personality as their father, which is great.
Well, his dad, Dave, pitched parts of 14 seasons in the majors. But this LaRoche is a superb fielder, and the Braves talked about his Gold Glove abilities in spring training. They were raving about his ability to pick it up.
Well, he's worked very hard at it, and I say his brother actually is playing first base. He's really a natural shortstop, but they both have, pretty good power and all this. And there's Frank Randall, the Braves, and they love this guy. The Braves are very good at determining who can play and who can't and who they're going to put in the packages to other teams. And of course, Frank has a big part of that.
Foul back, but a pretty good cut there. He's hit 15 home runs. And a look at his dad, and maybe a look that, well, family members are not all that thrilled about. How high does this pitch go as you look at Dave LaRoche, pitched to the major leagues, but hopefully not too many like that.
There was a time when he was a very, very good hard-throwing reliever with the Twins and the Angels. But he just pitched a long time because he loved to play.
LaRoche strikes out, and that's 2 down in the inning, with a run in on the RBI single by Grady Sizemore. So here comes the designated hitter, David Kelton. The Cubs prospect at .281 with a dozen homers. He's driven in 45 runs.
He's an interesting story because they just moved him to center field, and he's a very good athlete. He had been playing third base and first base, and he had a little throwing problem, and he just finally said, enough is enough. I'm never going to be able to play third base. He's made tremendous progress in center field in the minor leagues, and there has been some sort. If they can't make a deal for center fielder, that they bring Kelton up and let him play a little bit, maybe platoon.
He takes one just off the outside corner by Rich Harden, who has a fastball that can touch the upper 90s. Right now at AAA Sacramento. The most famous athlete, by the way, from Victoria, British Columbia, is Dallas Mavericks point guard Steve Nash. But if you talk to Harden, he says, I don't mind being the second most famous if that's okay with everyone else. He's cool with that. Sizemore getting his lead at first, and here comes the 2-1 pitch. Now 3-1.
Harden's also a very good athlete. I mean, he was originally a shortstop, and he didn't actually start pitching until he went to junior college, where the A's drafted him. And I mean, he was a late convert guy, but scouts I've talked to have said he was a pretty good shortstop, a good athlete. And you can see most pitchers who are good pitchers have to be good athletes because they repeat their delivery.
And he's trying to make it 3 consecutive strikeouts with the runner on the move. That's inside for ball 4. So both starters, Rich Harden and his opponent, left-hander Neil Kotz, have had their problems in the first inning. Tied at 1 here. As of July 1st, 76 former future league players were on big league rosters. Names like Dunn and Soriano and Zito, and we've ticked them off throughout the telecast already. 6 had already become major league all-stars.
Well, the year that Zito pitched in this game, he went up to the major leagues the next week, made his debut in July 22nd, 2000, and was a major factor in them getting into the playoffs. I mean, Harden is going to get that chance. I mentioned in the opening, Francisco Rodriguez. I mean, we had no idea who he was. He was just pitching in Double-A last year. They brought him up on about September 20th, and he ended up being a cult hero and a major factor in the postseason.
Yeah, we were calling him Francisco Rodriguez when we saw him make the final out in the Futures game last year. He became K-Rod after that, and the rest was history. But 20 of the 50 participants from last year's Future game are now on major league roster.
And a couple of them, like Morneau and Miguel Cabrera, are beasts.
Sure. Here's Steven Smitherman, the right fielder, batting .292. Big Reds prospect. As he cuts right through that, so Harden makes quick work of him, and he rings up 3 strikeouts in the inning. But Team USA also gets to him for a run. He winds up batting Chad Tracy, Adam LaRoche, and Steven Smitherman in the inning. Tough days for mascots these days, but this one's in good shape. A 1-1 tie at the end of the first inning. We go to the top of the second here from U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago, the home of the White Sox. And the home of the world, the All-Star game, I should say, coming up on Tuesday. And who knows, maybe a World Series if the White Sox get things together. The USA All-Stars, a look at the pitchers now, the rest of the reserves, the right-handers and the left-handers. And Peter, on this list, and I know you've just spent some time talking with Royce Ring, the youngster in the Mets system, who's likely to make the biggest impact the quickest?
Probably Royce Ring will be in the big leagues for the end of this year, but the guy to watch is Edwin Jackson from the Dodgers. The 2 other kids, Gavin Floyd and Zach Greinke, are a lot younger, but they may be the 2 highest ceiling pitchers other than Harden in this game. This is a pretty good pitching staff.
Well, from the Pirates organization, this is John Van Benschoten. 10-0 between single A and double A. And how about the ERA? 2.64, just 30 walks. So obviously he's a command guy.
Well, he's power too. He was more of known as a hitter in college. Most teams wanted to draft him as a hitter, but Mickey White, who was then the scouting director of the Pirates, took the gamble. Of course, he took a gamble when he was with the Cleveland Indians and took Manny Ramirez, and nobody else knew about either. So not too bad. But he decided to make him a pitcher, and a lot of teams thought, well, he's a little bit crazy, but he has really come on to Double-A on that very good staff with Sean Burnett.
Alexis Rios, the center fielder, who's been tearing it up at New Haven for the Toronto organization. He is 6'5", 200 pounds, out of Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. And he certainly has the body to grow into that power. Hasn't hit a whole lot of home runs yet, just 6, and he'll take a seat. So Van Benschoten strikes out his first man, and right now we throw it downstairs to the field. And our 4th man on the show, here's Gary Miller.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. I'm here with Rich Harden, and most of these guys are going to work 1 inning. And Rich, it was an eventful inning. They tied it up, but what did you learn from when you were out there?
Hey, you know, it was first time out there in front of a big crowd like this, and it's pretty exciting. I just had to kind of calm myself down a little bit, so I was kind of flying open, but it was a lot of fun.
What are you hearing about the prospects that you might be up there pitching with the big 3 sometime this week or this month?
You know, you always hear things like that, but it's something I can't really worry about. You know, when it happens, it happens.
You started this season with 13 perfect innings. You're moving up through the chain, and there is some talk that you'll be pitching with Oakland. What's this year been like for you?
It's been amazing. It's been really exciting. You know, it's been it's a lot of fun. Everything's happened so quickly.
Well, you saw him in the Futures game. You're going to see a lot of him in the future, Dave.
I think we will, and he sounds like he's ready. And Peter does not lack for confidence. It's not like he's backing down and saying, well, you know, I could use a little more seasoning, or saying, well, you know, you hear things all the time, and basically he's ready to rock and roll.
I'd say he's confident without being cocky.
Exactly.
And he's got a very, very nice presence about him.
Andy Marte from the Dominican Republic pops this one up along the foul line toward right. Adam LaRoche will watch that sail off into the seats. Marte, an Atlanta Braves prospect. He's been a very good hitter. He drove in 105 runs at Macon last year in the South Atlantic League.
Well, the Braves believe they have 2 guys who could be stars in Marte and an outfielder from Georgia named John Frank Kerr, who's playing in the South Atlantic League. But they're both really high-ceiling guys, as we know from Andrew Jones and Rafael Furcal. The Braves are not afraid to run their guys through the farm system because Bobby Cox is willing to play young players.
David Prinzel over to make the catch, and Marte is retired. They're 2 away. Well, the magnificent overhead images of today's game are courtesy of Aquafina and the Aquafina Purity 2 Lightship. The crew of the Aquafina Lightship hopes you're enjoying our coverage of this game, and what a day to be up there and looking over the city of Chicago and the All-Star Futures Game. There's so much going on. The celebrity softball game a little bit later, and we'll have that for you right after Home Run Derby on Monday. Broken back ground ball up the middle by Castillo, but gobbled up by J.J. Hardy. And that's 3 up and 3 down. So for Van Benschoten, a very brisk inning. He looks sharp, and he claims his first broken bat of the proceedings.
ESPN, the mag.
Bottom of 2 here in Chicago. The World won and USA won the All-Star Futures Game. Great to have you along with us. And Joe Mauer is going to lead things off as we give you a look at the World All-Star Reserve pitchers, the righties and the lefties. Denny Bautista, who's at AA for the Florida Marlins, he's actually a distant cousin to Pedro Martinez, and they work out together quite a bit.
They do, and he was one person when the Mets were working on the deal with Armando Benitez going to Florida. They were told, sorry, you can't have Batista, you can't have Jason Stokes, and that's why they ended up with Ugueth Urbina.
And on the mound, Edgar Gonzalez of the Diamondbacks organization. He actually tossed a no-hitter in 2002 while pitching for South Bend. That was against West Michigan.
And he's one of the many pitchers who'll come up during the season to contribute in Arizona.
9-4 so far between AAA and AA. He's made 16 starts, and he keeps the ball in the ballpark, allowing just 3 home runs. And the man he's facing right now might be the biggest star on the diamond today, and that's Joe Mauer. He slices that one foul, hitting .335, the left-hand hitting catcher of the Minnesota Twins. They drafted him #1 overall in the June 2001 draft and awarded him a franchise record $5.15 million signing bonus. Peter, is he worth it?
He is. I'll tell you, in spring training, one of my shocks. I mean, kid that young. I had 3 veteran pitchers come up to me and say to me, you got to watch him. He's the best catcher I've ever thrown to. 3 different guys, veterans. He's got tremendous ability, very soft hands. He's really quick with his feet. But there's something about that presence. To me, if a young player can get that kind of respect out of veterans, he is special.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
But he did say it was tough turning down Bobby Bowden. You know, he was signed to go to, he was a USA Today Football Player of the Year quarterback out of Cretin High School in St. Paul. Home of Mr. Winky and Mr. Molitor.
1-2. Another good look as it's into the dirt. The story goes that when Joe played T-ball growing up in St. Paul, he was just a little guy playing on those T-ball fields. They actually kicked him off. They kicked him right out of the league because he hit the ball too hard. That was still an issue in high school when he tied a national record by homering in 7 consecutive games. He hit .565 in his high school career. He hits that one softly, a looping liner. Gutierrez makes the catch in left. Now his general manager is actually here today, and that's Terry Ryan of the Minnesota Twins, and Gary Miller is with him. Gary?
Thanks a lot, Dave. Yeah, I'm here with Terry Ryan, and Terry, you know, he went to the same high school, Joe Mauer, that Chris Wenke went to, and he was signed to go to Florida State to play football just like Chris Wenke did. Things didn't work out in pro baseball for Chris Wenke. How'd you convince Joe to play baseball?
Well, they're both good players in high school, Gary. There's no question that both of them certainly justified their selection. Joe's got a lot of things going for him. He can throw, he can run, he can hit. Ultimately, he's going to develop power, and we think very highly of him, of course. And Weinke, he, in his own right, he was a good player. Didn't work out and decided to go back and play football. But we certainly don't think that Mauer's going to do that.
You gave Joe a lot of money, but one of the reasons that Mark Pryor went first that year is because of signing situation with him. Mark's going to be pitching across town in the All-Star game. You think Joe's going to be catching one of those All-Star games before too long?
Yeah, I think there's a reason he went first in the country. He's got those types of skills, and it is difficult to find catchers that can swing the bat, and Mauer can do that. And we've got a guy up there in Minnesota, Brzezinski, that can do that. So we've been fortunate to have a couple good catchers, and we can bring Mauer along at his own rate, and he's in AA now and doing a nice job.
Do you hope to one day have an all-Mauer battery and infield? You got Billy you just signed as a pitcher, and you got Jake playing down at Fort Myers at second base.
Yeah, we got a monopoly on the Mauer family, and Jake in his own right's done well at the Florida State League, and Billy we just signed about 3 weeks ago, and he's easing himself in the Gulf Coast League.
Okay, best of luck, Terry. We'll let you get back to your scouting. Dave?
All right, Gary, thank you very much.
Terry Ryan is always the first general manager at the ballpark the day of the Futures game. He's just a pure baseball man.
Jam shot by Hardy, softly rolled to Marte. Nice play to scoop and fire, and gets him. And Chris Burke advances to second. Chris Burke, an Astros prospect, first-round pick out of the University of Tennessee. He had reached on an error by the shortstop.
Burke is a guy that's been moved back from second base to shortstop, which is his position in Tennessee. But his double play partner the last couple of days has been Jeff Kent. So that's because Jeff's down there on rehab, swinging the bat well. But he did say, Chris said that Kent, he asked him a lot of questions. He said Kent was a tremendous help to him about certain things. about double play, about hitting.
Jeff Kent, not known to be an outgoing teammate in the clubs that he's played for, but he obviously going out of his way to help Hardy. And so with 2 away and a man on, David Krenzel comes up to swing. Krenzel, who was 3rd in the minors with 15 triples a year ago. That was at Huntsville and High Desert. So if he puts it in play, those gaps are down the line, he can run. And he's already stolen a base in this one after taking a walk in the opening inning. Burke getting his lead.
Well, you look at the Brewers, and I know things haven't been great for them for a few years. They haven't had a winning season since '92, but they do in Sexton have a legitimate star, and Jenkins is an all-star. But now you have Krenzel playing really well in Double-A. J.J. Hardy's playing really well in Double-A. They're starting to get some influx of young players and turn that thing around.
A little bit low for a ball on Krenzel.
I'm trying to stay out of that one because my son's in that organization.
Well, I was waiting for you to come.
I knew you were. Prince Fielder is in this organization too, and you're right. I think, and really, in order to be a good team in today's game, I think that's how you have to do it. You have to go and find the quality athletes, teach them how to play the game.
I'm surprised Prince Fielder isn't here. He's only hit 9 homers in his last 10 games.
Well, no.
We're gonna be looking at Tony's kid pretty soon. He's only hitting .389.
It'll be fun. It'll really be fun sitting here watching that. But the thing about it is that I think that a lot of these teams, especially in the smaller market, are really starting to concentrate on trying to find the athlete, trying to teach the athlete how to play the game, trying to build from within, and not all the time always have to go out and spend money.
Krenzel gets a piece of it on the swing. Up next, Grady Sizemore, but there are 2 out. They count 3-2 in the second inning. In a 1-1 tie. Nice to have you with us here in Chicago. Very busy weekend in this city for the All-Star festivities. With the celebrity softball game coming up, and then the home run hitting contest, of course, home run derby, and the All-Star game on Tuesday. Burke at second, and a bounding ball that hugs the line but foul.
The more and more I watch Krenzel, he does look like Johnny Damon. A lot of things that he does. The way he waves the bat, and that first step out of the batter's box. I mean, yeah, he does remind me of Johnny Damon a lot.
When you were that age, were there people saying Tony Gwynn reminds me of, he looks like, that sort of thing?
I don't think so. To be honest with you, I don't think so. We didn't have avenues like this to play in. You had your league all-star game, and getting to the big leagues for me was my focus, and I kind of snuck in through the back door, kind of. I was supposed to play in the A-ball all-star game. I missed that. I got sent to Double-A, and so I played the second half of the season there and went to Triple-A. Never got to play in the Triple-A all-star game because we didn't have one at the time. But these are great because it gives people a chance to see how good and talented some of these guys are.
With the new bat, it's bobbled by Nebar, but he gets it there in time to record the 3rd out. So on a gorgeous day on Lake Michigan and everywhere around the city of Chicago, great to have you with us. We're tied up in the Futures game in 1. It's the Radio Shack 2003 All-Star Futures Game, live from U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago. The World Team won and the USA Team won as we go to the top half of the 3rd inning. And tonight on ESPN at 8 o'clock Eastern, it's the Sunday game of the week. Gary Sheffield and the Braves visit Sammy Sosa and the Cubs on the north side of town at Wrigley. Stay tuned for Sunday Night Baseball tonight at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Look at this fellow. This is the honorary captain, or I should say coach. And this gentleman hit some home runs in a legendary career right here in Chicago. That is the great Ernie Banks.
He was just a breath of fresh air every day of his life.
Looks good.
That's Gavin Floyd out of the Phillies organization. He's only 6'6", 215 pounds. Peter, my guess is he throws it pretty hard.
He throws very hard. He has very good command, and he is, you talk to people around baseball, say, okay, who do you think are the 2 or 3 best pitchers in A-ball right now? His name will invariably come up. And what's fascinating to me about the Phillies is it speaks volumes about Mike Arbuckle, who was their scouting director and so on. They've had phenomenal success with high school pitchers, particularly high school right-handers, almost no other team has. But they've gone first-round draft choice. They stuck with it, and they've been very successful.
Foul tipped off the catcher by Ramon Nivar. He has scored the only run for the world team after doubling in the first inning. Showed his speed with a steal of third and came in on a base hit by Franklin Gutierrez.
He's one of those players. He struggled a little bit defensively in the infield. When they moved him to center field in the middle of about a month ago in Double-A, he just took off. He blossomed, and his athleticism took off. And of course, the Rangers this weekend brought up Lance Nix from Double-A, who's going to probably end up a right fielder.
Swing and a miss there. Are the Rangers pretty intent on going young in the second half?
Absolutely. You know, the two trades they've made thus far with Urbina and Everett, I mean, they would trade Gonzalez, they would trade Palmeiro. There were deals available and the players would go. They're committed to going younger and spending a lot less money, and they think that with Blaylock and Teixeira, Young, of course, A-Rod, Mensch, Nivar, Nix, they have the makings of a pretty darn good team. They've got 6 players in the 2 deals they've made.
Floyd showing pretty good stuff there on that heater away from Nivar, and he strikes him out, so that'll bring up Alexis Gomez. He was caught looking on a 3rd strike in the first inning. And Gomez had focused on volleyball as one of the top players in the Dominican Republic. He was an outstanding volleyball player. He was on the national junior team. He says, now I don't miss volleyball. I wasn't going to be able to help my family financially by playing it. He went full-time with baseball, and here he is in the Futures Game, 22 years old, from Kansas City's organization.
I think the travel and the money might be a little bit better in U.S. baseball than Dominican volleyball.
Just a tad. Yeah, just a hair.
Joe Mauer going back to the screen looking for room, but it's over and out of his reach. In fact, Gomez came down with a very bad case of chickenpox when he was playing in Wichita last season in 2002. He spent 2 weeks basically quarantined at home. He said, I didn't see the sun for days. It was very tough for him because he loves the sun. He said, all I did was watch Sports Center over and over and over again.
Hope he realizes that some of them will repeat.
I think he caught on. I think he definitely seems like a very bright kid. We count on Gomez 2-2. Rene Reyes up next. We're in a 1-1 tie here in the 3rd inning. Swing and a miss. That's strike 3, but it goes to the backstop, and so Gomez will advance to first on the strikeout.
I think that breaking ball by Floyd not only fooled the hitter, but kind of flew Joe Mauer behind the plate here too. I mean, look at the break on that. Mauer tried to backhand that ball. So he's going to go out and talk to Gavin Floyd about it, because either he was crossed up or that ball broke a lot more than he thought it would.
So a man on despite the 2nd consecutive strikeout by Gavin Floyd. Gomez getting his lead. Now Gomez can run, so Floyd is going to have to be very wary over there. He has stolen 36 bases, but also caught 24 times. One popped up by Reyes. He struck out in the opening inning.
There had been some talk that Reyes was going to be brought up this weekend from Colorado when they released Greg Vaughn, but they decided to wait a little bit more. I mean, I think that told that some of the people in the Rockies organization would just like to see a little bit more consistent effort. So they're waiting on him a little bit.
Well, the batting average there at .343, but the power's not too good. 5 home runs. The runner goes, and it's lined into center. Krenzel with a catch has a chance for a double play. Guns it there in time. A twin killing on the fly out to Krenzel. Made a beautiful one-hop throw to Adam LaRoche. So they rolled the dice a bit on Gomez, and he did not make it back to first in time. This one remains tied at 1.
Look what Pizza Hut's got for you now. Here's your pizza with Mr. Mon and starring Michael Keaton and
Martin Mull.
Martin Mull. You know, he was so real as the evil, two-faced, arrogant ad executive. The DVD is yours to keep when you buy a large Pizza Hut pizza at regular price. Choose from 4, count them 4, comedy classics like all.
Now the bottom 3rd coming up here. That means Team USA to swing. But let's go back, Tony, and take a look at that final out on the double play. I know you liked it.
Yeah, Dave Krenzel made this play look very easy. It's a line drive to center field, and instead of trying to throw this ball all the way in the air, he makes a perfect one-hop throw to the first baseman. It's an easy play for the first baseman to catch the ball. Accurate throw. Did a perfect job of getting the third out there.
Nice read by Krenzel there in center field. New pitcher now for the world team, and Sun Song out of South Korea, who was drafted by the Boston Red Sox and traded to the Montreal Expos. 23 years old, 5 years as a professional.
Well, he was traded for Cliff Floyd last year, and a month ago he was one of the players involved in the deal for Juan Gonzalez that Gonzalez turned down.
This is swinging a drive by Grady Sizemore deep to right field, sending Gomez back, and she's gone. Grady Sizemore has a home run for the United States team.
Well, I talked to two people I respect that have seen a lot of minor league baseball this year, and they both said the best prospect they've seen is Grady Sizemore, who was one of the 3 guys with Clifford Lee and Brandon Phillips that Cleveland got from Montreal for Bartolo Colon. This guy is a special talent, and he will be playing right field for the Indians next year.
Fastball up in the zone, and he just kind of stroked it out of the ballpark.
He wasted no time getting into Song there. Chad Tracy 0 for 1. He struck out his first time up, but Sizemore with the first home run of the 2003 Futures game. Tracy fouls that one at the plate. He played his college ball as a first baseman at East Carolina. Chad Tracy did, hitting .314 at AAA. Now, whoever is the most valuable player of today's game will be awarded with the Dobie Award, and I would have to say that Mr. Sizemore, who has driven in both runs for the USA, he is the odds-on favorite right now.
I would agree with that. I think he's got the early lead.
You talk to him and you meet him, you find that he's pretty special. He's got, you know, he's not one of those flamboyant players, but he plays hard all the time. He's a good outfitter. Say he's going to probably move over to right field, but they think, I mean, Clifford Lee is one of the best looking. I think he's 7-0 now in AAA, and he pitched a great game in the big leagues. Brandon Phillips is going to be a heck of a player, but they believe in the end that this is the guy that will be the franchise player from that trade.
Popped up by Tracy. Racing out, Nevar coming in, Gomez, and Gomez is there for the catch in right field. Downstairs now to Gary Miller. Gary.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. And it's fitting that the front runner for the Larry Dobie Award is out of the Indians organization. Grady, you told me you only hit 1 or 2 of them in BP. How did it feel to circle a major league field with a home run to put the team ahead in the Futures game?
It's a great feeling. It's a big adrenaline rush. You know, I was just trying to get a pitch I could do something with, and I got a ball out of the plate, and I was able to get it out of the park.
Tell me about that at bat, what you were looking for, what you got, and why it went.
I was just looking for a fastball, you know, somewhere, you know, middle in. I mean, this kind of game, I think everyone's trying to get ahead of you early, so I was looking to get that first pitch and drive it somewhere.
And now Carlton Fisk was up in the clubhouse. I think maybe you guys should tell him. He heard the fireworks go off and said something must have happened. He came out and gave you the handshake.
Good stuff. Maybe you should stay in there more often. Good luck for me.
Okay. Grady Sizemore, back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Gary. Some terrific managing by Pudge, obviously.
And by the way, Sizemore's the youngest player in the Eastern League.
How about that? 20 years old. And looks like a fast track to the big leagues. His mom and dad wanted him to go to college in the worst way. They said they didn't care how much was offered from major league clubs. He was going to college until he took his first trip to a college campus. He went to the University of Washington for his first visit, and they found out there were 3 guys to every single dorm room, tiny dorm room. Then they started listening all of a sudden. They decided, well, maybe the major leagues, that's a better way to go, certainly a better way to sleep. And he wound up signing a big money deal. Lined into right by LaRoche, and that's going to drop down for a base hit.
Now, Tony, what about some of those rooming arrangements on the road in A-ball?
Yeah,
right.
And the bus rides and some of the other stuff. But, you know, listening to him speak there, you can tell. I mean, he's matured. He's very confident in himself, but not boastful about it. Because sometimes in the game of baseball, that's the hardest thing, or the thing that takes the longest to learn, is how to, you know, be able to compose yourself and kind of get through the day-to-day things you have to get through to make it, you know, to the big leagues.
There's the Cubs prospect David Kelton. He drew a walk in the first inning, and he takes ball 1. So already the United States team with a couple of hits off of Sun Song who back on April 28th pitched a no-hitter for the Harrisburg Senators against the Erie Seawolves. And in fact, Song committed the only error in the game that led to a run. He struck out 4. It was the first no-hitter of his career, also the first in the Senators' modern franchise history. April 28th, the no-hitter for the right-hander from South Korea, Sung Song.
He's a command guy. He throws 86 to 88. I think the one thing that's worried some of the teams that Omar Minaya has been talking to about trades is that his strikeout ratios have gone down each of the last 3 years. And it's a little bit of a concern with a guy who doesn't throw that hard. And I know when they were talking to the Mets about Benitez or about Alomar, the Expos kept offering him. I'm not sure how much interest there was there.
Team USA up 2-1 on a home run by Grady Sizemore, who's driven in both runs. Steven Smitherman up next. Cut on and missed. And Kelton chasing a pitch, could not find it. So he strikes out. And that's out number 2.
Again, that's a situation where the guys are looking for a fastball. And just the sheer, being nervous about being in a game like this, wanting to perform, wanting to show people what you can do. And sometimes it gets the best of you. That's why, Sizemore has been so impressive. Because he's just kind of settled in and said, well, boys, I'm just going to take my swing.
Pretty good cut there and lying down into the corner. Smitherman tags it. Nice cutoff job by Gutierrez. Romping into third is Adam LaRoche, and it's a double for Smitherman.
Well, Smitherman has hammered the ball. He was in line to make a run at the Triple Crown in the Southern League. He's kind of a guy that they didn't think was much of a prospect, big, bulky body guy, but he's had a pretty good year. He actually came up and played a game for the Reds 2 weeks ago. But when you've got Dunn, Kearns, Guillen, and Mr. Griffey, it's a little tough to break into that outfit.
Yep, that's a tough move. Well, here's Joe Mauer, who is 0 for 1. He's flied out to left. And Peter, you talked about his football playing ability in St. Paul, highly sought after. How good was he? Could he have played Division I as a star?
Well, that's what Florida State thought, and so did Miami. They went head-to-head over him. What's interesting, his family are very good friends with the Wankies, and he got a lot of advice, but the Wankies advised him to play baseball. That's what he really loves. And he said to me that even though Bobby Bowden was pretty convincing, because he said that there was no way he would come up to St. Paul without bringing it back to Tallahassee. He loved baseball most. And so when about halfway through the summer in 2000, he said, okay, I'm signing to play baseball. And the Wankies were great help. I mean, Chris was never bitter about his baseball experience.
Bounding ball, he hit another one foul. Runners at second and third. We were talking with Terry Ryan earlier, the general manager of the Minnesota Twins, and how much he loves him and loves his brother.
Jim Hendry, who's a Cubs general manager, told me that if he had had the #1 pick, he would have wrestled with it too. But he said that if the Twins had indeed taken Pryor, there's no question in his mind he would have taken Mauer. It was one of those years where the two players were separated from everybody else.
He goes up the middle. Castillo with the stop, fires a strike right there to get Mauer. 2 men left, but Grady Sizemore didn't hit it on the ground. He hit it over everything, yanking a high fastball over the right field fence. He's driven in 2 runs already. He might be the MVP by the end of the day. Well, they play young at the Futures Game. Not quite that young, but who knows? Maybe one day that youngster on the right. USA leading the world team 2-1. And a new pitcher on the hill, that's going to be Zach Greinke. And how about the numbers that jump off the page on this Kansas City Royals right-hand prospect, Peter?
He was the #1 pick in the country. I mean, he was the 7th pick in the draft. He was their #1 pick. He's 11-1 this year. But, I mean, he's already gone from Wilmington in the Carolina League into AA. In his first full pro year, when they drafted him, they said this guy is the equivalent of a college senior in his approach to the game. He actually pitched and dominated in Puerto Rico for a while at 18 years old last year. I'll tell you a little bit about his makeup, and it's the command. They talk about the young Greg Maddux. Mike Berger of the Rockies was at a game in the Carolina League, and he saw Greinke sitting in the stands before the game, watching the other team take batting practice. So Mike went over, sat down with him, and said, well, what are you doing? He said, I watch the other team take batting practice every day. He had a notebook and was taking notes on what he thought hitters wanted to hit. That's 19 years old.
That's pretty impressive.
That's ahead of your time. The forced at 301 at AAA Durham. He walked in the first inning. And a swing and a miss. Could not catch up to that pitch, and down he goes. So it's a strikeout and a quick impression by Zach Greinke.
I can't remember a young pitcher coming through. I mean, there's this prodigy thing about it. I mean, he's not like he's 6'6", 230 pounds and throws 98 miles an hour. It's just he's got such command and such an idea. He's good. He has a good fastball, and he's got 4 pitches, but it's the idea of what he's doing at this age.
And that's the thing. I mean, sometimes we fans get caught up in the fact that they think they got to be like what they see on TV. This game is the best game because
very high fly ball deep to left by Gutierrez, who's excellent power, but the ballpark will hold it. Sizemore with the catch. 2 fast outs here in the 4th inning. And tomorrow night on ESPN, we continue our all-star coverage. Baseball tonight, presented by Miller Lite. Starts things at 7. Then it's the Century 21 Home Run Derby at 8 o'clock. The field includes American League leader Carlos Delgado, Jason Giambi, Brett Boone, Garrett Anderson. The National League represented by Jim Edmonds, Albert Pujols, and Gary Sheffield. For more all-star coverage, log on to ESPN.com.
Well, as I was saying, the beauty of this game is that there's all kind of different types of players that can be successful. And if you're a pitcher, you don't have to throw 98 miles per hour all the time. Sometimes it's just doing like he did, sitting down, watching guys hit, and coming up with a game plan, trying to figure out how you can get a guy out. You don't have to be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Well, in this inning, he has thrown 7 pitches, all strikes. That's the first non-strike he's thrown. Something happened on that one.
I mean, most guys, when you throw a pitch like he just thrown, you know, he'd be smiling or something. I mean, he's just kind of shaking it off, trying to keep his composure, not letting the opponent see that that maybe that was supposed to be funny, but he didn't laugh. And you can tell, guy, he's enjoying what he's doing, and you can tell that he's really trying to pitch. He's really trying to locate and put the ball where he thinks he needs to put it.
It's a very smooth delivery. Popped up, foul, back out of play by Quiros.
It amazed me last winter. A friend of mine was scouting in Puerto Rico, and he called me up and he said, I just watched an 18-year-old kid pitching in that league. I mean, there's Carlos Baerga and all these guys playing against him. He said it's amazing, and he was good. 4 innings, 1 hit, no runs, and about 5 balls.
He's trying to toss a perfect 4th inning here, with the USA team leading the world team 2-1. The game has been played since 1999. It was the inaugural Futures game in Boston, with Alfonso Soriano setting the bar really high for future All-Stars with 2 home runs.
Off the coat bottles, off Mark Mulder.
My goodness. In there for strike 3. Greinke looks like the real deal, doesn't he? He strikes out 2 in the inning. USA pitchers have struck out 7 world batters so far.
Back at the Futures game, Team USA is up 2-1 as we talked with the star of last inning, Zach Greinke. And Zach, what was it like for you out there? I mean, just a year ago, just a little over a year ago last summer, you're pitching in high school. You get drafted. It's your first pro season of pro ball. You're moving up the chain. Here you are in the Futures game. You dizzy?
You know what? Actually, I am dizzy. I watched this game last year, and some guys could really play, and I was just looking at it, and I was like, man, I wish I could be there someday. I wasn't thinking 1 year away. I was thinking someday I wish I would be there, and to be there now, I'm just so excited about that.
How do you explain how things have gone so fast for you? You won your first 9 starts of the year, 11-1. What's happening?
Geez, I'm just trying to throw strikes out there and listening to my pitching coaches everywhere I go. Learned a lot in Puerto Rico with my coach, Guy Hansen. And ever since I learned with him, my confidence has been so much better. And he really helped me out for the long run.
Well, congratulations on a great inning, Zach Greinke. And everything's going right for the Royals this summer. Dave?
Well, they certainly are. What a run for them right into the All-Star break. They're going to have the lead when many predicted that they would be cellar dwellers. They've done fantastic work, but a young star on the horizon there. He looks like he's 13, 14 years old, but he pitches like he's 33, 34.
Absolutely.
Now here's the new guy, the new pitcher for the world team, Jin-Hye Sao, and he is going to take on the 8, 9, and 1 part of the order. He is from Taiwan, and
well, he's come back from Tommy John surgery to be the Rockies' #1 prospect. He will be in the big leagues before the year's over. 105 innings. It's the 25-128 walk strikeout ratio that amazes me. But the Rockies are developing some very, very good young pitchers, you know, with Chacon and Jennings, and he is the most special of them all.
Well, he pitched for the Chinese Taipei team. Sao did in qualifying competition for the 2000 Seoul Olympics. He was the only amateur on the squad. It was comprised of players from Taiwan's 2 pro leagues. He had 1 start, and he struck out 15, and he fired a 1-hitter. So an impressive outing there. The Rockies signed him
I think he has to keep going to school in this country, though, because he's got military obligation in China. But if he keeps going to school, then they overlook it. So I think he'll be taking like a half a course a year for the rest of his life.
The new catcher for the world team is Justin Huber from Australia, out of the Mets system. They're very fond of this young man. So he does the receiving here in the 4th inning. 2-1, Team USA in front. Chris Burke has reached on an error by the shortstop. That was in the 2nd inning. So he's 0 for 1.
Burke is a very interesting player. Second baseman, shortstop. His natural position is shortstop, but he is a good offensive player. He can run, get on base. Wherever he plays, he can give them a future leadoff hitter.
Well, Jin-Hye Sao makes quick work of him and strikes him out here in the 4th. 1 away.
That Neil's knees buckle right there. That's, as a hitter, you pretty much know you're done as soon as your knee does that.
So strikeouts piling up on both sides, and that brings up J.J. Hardy. He's 0 for 1. Hardy has grounded out to 3rd base. They mentioned that Sao had signed with Colorado for a bonus of a little over $2 million. He said, the #1 reason I signed with the Rockies is I like the uniform. The colors are nice. He passed up offers from the Yankees, the Braves, and the Dodgers, franchises with considerably greater history than Colorado, but he likes the colors.
I mean, obviously he's from a different country, but he reminds me a lot of Chan-Ho Park.
That's in there knee high for a strike.
He's been able to command the fastball, command the changeup. 2-0 there, he threw him a 2-0 changeup for a strike, came back with a fastball.
Poked into left by Hardy as he went down to get it. Kind of a one-handed swing, but he drops in a base hit. So J.J. Hardy is on.
Well, that's good hitting by Hardy. Got a breaking ball down. Stayed where he got a little bit out in front. Kept his hands, allowed his barrel to get through the zone. Stayed on the baseball, lines it in the left.
So a man on, 1 away, top of the order, David Krenzel, the batter. He's walked and scored. He's also grounded out to 2nd. The USA team has struck out 5 times today. The world team 7 times. So the pitching has taken center stage here. Did you expect that, Peter? Did you think that it would go that way today, given the balance between offense and pitching?
Yeah, because of there are a lot of lot of good young pitchers in this game, and it's one look at it. It's tough seeing a guy.
Hardy running, but he's cut down on a nice throw by Huber. This is a pretty good idea why the Mets like him so much. A cannon throw down to get him for the 2nd out.
Yeah, Justin Huber just moved up to Double-A as they try to fast track him a little bit. But I think there's a lot of young pitching coming. I mean, you look at all the young pitchers around, the Dontrell Willis's and the Brandon Webbs and guys. You know, this year there have been very few pitchers acquired in trades that have affected pennant races, but there have been a lot of pitchers who've come up and really helped. I think you've got another generation in Double-A and Triple-A. We've seen some very good young arms here, and I'm told next year might be the best draft of all time for college pitchers.
You got to look today at Rich Harden, who started today for the world team. Little pop into right center field. Here comes Gomez, and a nice cradle catch made by the right fielder. It's only 3 batters come up in that inning against Sao, and it remains 2-1 USA.
Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. And in part by MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
Aquafina and the crew of the Aquafina Purity 2 Lightship are proud to be part of today's game coverage. We hope you're enjoying this pure view from high in the sky over Chicago. Starting to cloud up a little bit, but right now the temperature is just fine and no rain in sight. An entertaining ball game so far, 2-1. The USA out in front. Clint Najat is the new pitcher for the USA team out of San Antonio, Double-A right now, 22 years old. And Peter, you're projecting he's a big leaguer next year.
Yeah, with the of course the Mariners already have one of the best rotations, some of the best young pitchers in the league, but
Alexis Rios, this one jumps off his bat and it screams over the fence for a home run, just clearing the right field wall. Alexis Rios, the center fielder, who has been on fire at Toronto for their organization in New Haven, getting 348 coming into today, and he has tied the game at 2.
Got a fastball right down the middle of the plate. And what you're seeing in baseball today, a lot of these young guys are starting to emulate, and that's taking that fastball, not trying to pull it and going with it.
In there for a strike on Andy Marte, so we're all even at 2 apiece.
I'm saying, but the Mariners now they brought up Rafael Soriano to the big leagues. He's got a tremendous arm, and this Najat has been absolutely dominant in the Texas League. So Mariners know in that ballpark you win with pitching, and they're not going to trade you.
Went right by everybody. Jose Castillo scheduled to hit next, and again his numbers 9-2, a 262 earned run average. What's impressive, one after another, Peter, as they come onto the hill, is the low walk totals and the high strikeout totals generally.
Well, I think that the command of the strike zone has been the sort of the credo of the last 5 to 8 years, and I think you're starting to see it throughout baseball. I mean, you see young guys come in with really, you know, they commanding the plate as pitchers just as commanding the plate as hitters.
Little slider that didn't break.
Little hallmark reading that may have woken him up. He checked his swing and it's low for ball 4, so Marte winds up with a free pass. You know, until the home run by Rios moments ago, that had been 10 in a row set down by the United States pitchers. But now 2 straight have reached. Here comes Jose Castillo, who's grounded out to the shortstop. He's 0 for 1. Castillo from Las Mercedes, Venezuela, Pirates infield prospect.
Well, they moved him over to second base. He's got good hands. He can run. Physically, they think he might need another couple of years, but right now he's probably their best positional player.
Castillo hitting 280 in the minor leagues. His favorite player growing up was Ozzie Guillen, and still is to this day. He said he wanted to follow Ozzie Guillen into the major leagues. He had a chance to meet him and talk to him at length recently.
I know Ozzie can talk.
I was about to say, how did Castillo get a word in edgewise? I mean, nobody else can talk when Ozzie's talking, and one of the most colorful guys who's played Major League Baseball. Just a delight to be around. I know you agree, Peter, but
I love him.
The youngster here, Castillo, idolizes him, and he said, that's the reason I wanted to play baseball, Ozzie Guillen. He swings and misses, and down he goes, and that's the 8th strikeout by the USA pitchers. We have a bunch of changes now around the infield for the USA team, and you start with Kevin Youkilis over there at third base. Khalil Green, who's a star at Clemson, great college player, is at short. Josh Barfield, he's at second base. Ryan Howard at first. Jeff Mathis is the new catcher. We talked about Josh Barfield. It's a guy you know very well, Tony Gwynn, and you knew his dad too.
Yeah, you know, he's a second baseman and really turning into a really good player. And the shortstop and the second baseman both are products of the San Diego Padre organization, and they're looking at these 2 guys to be the keystone combination here in the future.
Good fastball in there for a knee-high strike. 95 miles an hour there. Ramon Nivar has doubled. He's also struck out. It's actually Robinson Cano now who's doing the hitting for Nivar. 20 years old, out of San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican.
Yankee prospect and a good hitter, good offensive player. Some question about the position, but he's young.
Us getting a little bit later in the game here. It wouldn't surprise me at some point to maybe see some action, see a hit and run, try to get something generated here. Exception of 2 bad pitches, really pitchers have been in control in this game.
Into the dirt. Nice stop there by Mathis to keep that one at bay and to hold Marte at first base.
About a month ago, I raised the question to some different people who were catchers, why there are so few good young catchers, and especially young catchers coming out of the United States. And I got the answer. Just go look at Mr. Maurer and Mr. Mathis, because they're going to both be outstanding big league catchers.
Swing and a miss, and another strikeout, and that pitch into the dirt. Another great block by Mathis. Let's go back down now to Gary Miller. Gary?
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. I'm right next to Tony Oliva, and you're really into this game, Tony. After Rios went deep, I can't say exactly what you said, but let's kick some behind is equivalent of what you said. You're pretty fired up.
Yeah, you're right. No, I right there, right in the morning. I think you guessed right. No, I very deep in this game. I know anytime we play a game, we play to win. And it was a big hit that kid went over, hit a home run, and hit the ball good. When you see a young guy like that go to the opposite field and hit the ball the way he hit it, you got something there.
You're playing very aggressively today, Tony. Is that a matter of how great the pitching is in this game, or is that just your style?
No, I have 2 things. It's my style, and this is, it's a great pitches. They got a good pitcher today. You know what's called 2 minutes wrong here in this game. You have to play aggressive. This kid here is the top in the line in the minor league. Someday you see a lot of those guys here in the big league.
Well, Tony's pretty fired up. He wants this game, Dave, and we're running out of innings. Back to you.
Well, I can tell his team has fought back to tie it up right here. And Carlton Fisk has gone to the mound, and he's decided to make a pitching change. J.D. Durbin will be coming on. And we are tied up 2-2 with 2 men out. So Durbin into the ball game. And in this inning, after the home run by Rios and the walk to Marte, back-to-back strikeouts. And so that's 9 Ks in the book already by the United States pitchers. So Durbin, Peter projects will soon be in the big leagues.
He moved up with Joe Mauer from Fort Myers to New Britain. Good command guy, and with the Twins needing some more pitching in a hurry, he'll probably get an opportunity next spring.
Coming up tonight on ESPN at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, it's the Sunday game of the week, the last ball game before the All-Star break. Gary Sheffield and the Braves visit Sammy Sosa and the Cubs on the north side of town over at Wrigley Field. Yesterday, the Cubs slowing up that Atlanta freight train into the All-Star break. Stay tuned for Sunday Night Baseball. It's tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. This event also available on ESPN HD. And there are some Cub fans here, believe it or not, today, following their prospects in the stands. And the greatest Cub of them all, perhaps, right there, and Ernie Banks taking in a game where he loves to be on the field. And anytime I've ever encountered Ernie Banks on a baseball diamond, he has been smiling without fail. His favorite place to be. And high above U.S. Cellular Field on what's turned out to be a nice breezy afternoon in the city of Chicago. And we're hoping the weather will be even better for Tuesday and the All-Star festivities. And coming up on Monday, of course, the Home Run Derby on ESPN. The All-Star game generating all sorts of interest because of the new format. Oh, by the way, some All-Star news. Luis Castillo has been named to replace the injured Marcus Giles, who was shaken up in that play the other day with Mark Pryor. Felix Pie is going to do the hitting. And he is a Chicago Cub prospect. The youngster backs away from ball one from Durbin. Just a great story on PA and how he was discovered. He was shining shoes for a living at 16 years old in the Dominican. He had already dropped out of school. And he came to watch some buddies of his try out for a Cub Scout. For a Chicago Cub Scout in the Dominican Republic. He wasn't even going to try out, had no chance in his mind. And when a lot of his friends who were serious prospects failed to impress the scout noticed PA on the side swinging the bat. He said, well, how about that kid? He looks like an athlete. Well, Felix ran around, got somebody else's spikes, somebody else's baseball pants, got a glove. They timed him in the 60-yard dash that afternoon at 6.9 seconds. He absolutely flew. He out-hit everybody. He out-threw everybody. He dazzled the scout, who later that night was standing in his living room with a dirt floor in the Dominican Republic talking to his parents. And they were signing him to a $22,000 bonus to become a Chicago Cubs minor leaguer. And he was there to shine shoes that day.
That's a great story. The development of young players who haven't had a lot of training it sometimes takes a while. It takes very good coaching, but the Cubs organization is one of the most respected in baseball right now. And in fact, you know, I think most polls of which is the best organization, they're in the top 3 or 4 in every single one of them. And they have tools, they've got pitchers, they've got some guys who are just good baseball players.
And a little luck doesn't hurt if the right kid shows up.
Well, they've had some bad luck this year too, though.
Oh, yeah.
Angel Guzman hurting his arm, their best pitching prospect. Well, Juan Cruz has thrown the ball very well back at Iowa again, so maybe he can get back to the big leagues and help them out in the bullpen or in a trade.
Man at first, and a swing and a miss for strike 3. So Durbin collects what is the 10th strikeout for a USA pitcher on this day. But Rio smacked the home run, and we're tied at 2.
Onto the Massachusetts Turnpike. Oh, he may get 400 on that swing alone. Back. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness gracious. Back. That's over everything.
Well, that's what you're going to be seeing tomorrow on ESPN as we continue our all-star coverage. Baseball Tonight, presented by Miller Lite, starts at 7. Then it's the Century 21 Home Run Derby at 8. The field includes Jason Giambi, Carlos Delgado, Fred Boone, Jim Edmonds, Albert Pujols, Gary Sheffield, and on and on. And for more all-star coverage, log on to ESPN.com. Now, the new pitcher is going to be Denny Bautista, and he is a lanky right-hander from the Dominican Republic, a distant cousin to Pedro Martinez, but he really has more the body of Ramon Martinez, Peter.
Absolutely.
11-4 between double and single A. And facing Grady Sizemore, who may be the MVP today. He has singled and homered. He has driven in both of the runs for the USA team. He's had a heck of an afternoon so far.
He has. I mean, base hit to left, or base hit to center, home run to right.
Well, his manager from the minor leagues is Brad Kaminsky, is downstairs right now. Gary Miller. Gary.
Thanks a lot, Dave. You called that last home run?
Absolutely. So, yeah. Just had a feeling, you know, sometimes you got to get in that phone booth and dial 1-800. Man, he went big fly. It was a good swing and got a good pitch to hit. And he's done it before, so it was good to see.
I guess it's good somebody on the coaching staff was paying attention. Pudge was up in the clubhouse.
Was he really? Yeah. Probably getting a little something to eat, a hamburger or something in there, you know.
Tell us about Grady, what makes him so special.
Great.
And how'd you talk these guys into giving him 3 at-bats in this game?
We've only got 4 outfielders out there right now, so Grady seemed like a good guy to get out there. But he's been a great player for us all year. Hustles all the time. Been playing center field and some left field too. But for primarily a center fielder, but has a great approach to the plate. Very patient, disciplined, and can drive the ball too. He's starting to learn how to drive the ball a little bit. I think primarily before he was more of a line drive type hitter, single, double, has good speed, so triples are not out of the question. But this year he's learning to turn on the ball a little bit, and now he has 9 home runs so far this year.
How much does it impress you, Brad, to see him in this environment?
I mean, he's impressed me all year, really. I mean, he's just the approach he comes to the ballpark to play every day, has a great approach, knows what he needs to do day in and day out to make himself a big league ball player, and I mean, that's all you can ask for.
And good managing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Dave, back to you. Brad, Gary, thank you very much. He just flied out to right field, so make him 2 for 3 for the day. And that brings up Kevin Youkilis, who is the Red Sox farmhand out of the University of Cincinnati. Twice hit over 400 for the Bearcats at Cincinnati. Set 6 all-time offensive records at the school, now 24 years old.
Well, for anyone who's read the book Moneyball, which is about Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics, there is a point where Beane, for one day, was going to go to be the Red Sox general manager, and Youkilis was going to be the guy that was traded for him because Paul DePodesta, the assistant general manager, looked at his walk totals in that lifetime, about 480 on-base percentage, and proclaimed him the Greek god of walks. However, he'd like to clear it up. He wants to be the Jewish Greek god of walks. But he is unbelievable. His on-base percentage is almost 500 right now. I mean, he's got this amazing eye, and he doesn't strike out.
High batting averages throughout the minor leagues. And he developed that superb eye under his college coach at Cincinnati, Brian Cleary, who stressed the importance of swinging at fastballs and taking breaking pitches. College pitchers throw far less breaking pitches for strikes. And look at that on base, as you mentioned, 482 to lead the Eastern League. So an excellent eye indeed, and right on cue, he takes ball 4.
Just like Jose Reyes last year.
I was just going to say that.
17 triples.
2 years in a row, man.
That was, you guys set that up. I think that was rigged the way that worked out. But Jose Reyes has since been promoted to the New York Mets. He was the star last year. He had that bases clearing triple. He only had 19 triples last season. That does not include the one that he had in the Futures game as well. And this is what he's done so far with the Mets. They let him off yesterday. Art Howe did, and he went 3 for 5. I think his future is as a leadoff man.
I think he's going to hit for some power, too. I think he's going to end up being a lot bigger. I think he's going to be maybe a little bit like Miguel Tejada.
Wouldn't be a bad thing to be a little like Miguel Tejada. So Ryan Howard, he was a starter at first for the Florida State League All-Star game this past season. 23 years old.
Tremendous raw power.
Batting with a man on here, and he takes a strike. All tied up 2-2 in the 5th inning. The game will go 7 innings. So shortened up a little bit. The pitching has been very good on both sides. That one up top for a ball.
Big, long, lanky pitcher kind of hides the ball really well. And so for hitters, you know, it looks like it's a little bit deceptive.
Foul tipped into the mid. So he snuck that one by Howard. And the count 2-2.
Well, he has spent a lot of time learning about pitching from 2 extremely intelligent people, Ramon and Pedro Martinez. And that's a pretty good pedigree and a pretty good way to learn about pitching.
Runner goes, and it's dropped by the catcher, Hubert. So advancing up into scoring territory, Youkilis, he's ready to go now with a count of 3-2.
Yeah, he's kind of built like Ramon Martinez. And, you know, the one thing about his delivery is he straightens his arm out before he actually delivers the ball to the plate. And so, you know, from a hitter's perspective, he hides that ball right down that leg.
Well, he got Howard there, and he struck him out. He could not hold up. Another K in the book there, and there are 2 gone.
You know, here is Bautista drops his arm. He hides that ball behind his leg. And sometimes that makes it hard for the hitter to pick up the ball.
Well, Pedro has said about Denny Bautista, and as Peter pointed out, they've worked out together in the Dominican the last several years. He said he throws the curveball the same way that I do. He throws his changeup the same way. Everything we do together over the winter. Pedro says this guy is going to be something special. So I think we should all pay attention.
Absolutely. That is a remarkable baseball family. I once went to a family party at the homestead of the Martinez's that they now, La Finca, that they have refinished.
Well, that one may have struck the umpire in a play at third base, and he's safe. Youkilis gets in there. Talk about being crossed up. I'm not sure who that got. It may have gotten the home plate umpire and completely got by Huber. Let's take a look.
Yeah, looks like it did.
Yeah.
Looks like he was waiting for that ball to break, and it just didn't break at all.
What I was saying about that Martinez family, there were, I believe, 16 people at that party who played professional baseball, and they're all in the family.
Wow.
You know,
that's deep bloodlines. That's a pass ball, incidentally, and a big league pass ball. Actually, you don't see that in the big leagues very often. The batter, Kelton, with a runner at third base, and that's the go-ahead run for the USA team. You're in the 5th inning, but there are 2 out. Pitch is in there for a strike, and a little more on Denny Bautista with Gary Miller.
Talk about the bloodlines. He's also got some good teammates. He was with Dontrell Willis last year. How about that for a Florida State League All-Star 1-2 punch last year in Class A?
Yeah, good luck to anybody swinging a bat Class A against those two. And this guy is bringing it. That 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
We were talking about being deceptive, but I mean, he just flat out bringing it.
Now, the Atlanta Braves originally signed him. Foul tipped. That was before Major League Baseball suspended their Dominican operations because of Atlanta's underage signing of Wilson Betterman. The Braves lost. The Marlins gained. He agreed to a $360,000 signing bonus in April 2000, and he could be the next great Marlin pitcher. Tried to drop in an off-speed pitch, and it was down and in.
Well, when you've got, when they get A.J. Burnett healthy again, if they decide to keep him, when you've got Burnett and Penny and Willis, Bautista, foundation of a pretty good staff.
And Josh Beckett in there for strike 3. 2 more strikeouts rung up. That's the 2nd time for Kelton today. So the Cubs star of the future has been quiet so far. A runner stranded over there at third base. And we remain in a 2-2 tie. A tight one here in Chicago. The Radio Shack 2003 All-Star Futures Game from U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago. And a good one here, 2-2. Pitching has certainly dominated. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. You can get your MLB Authentic Collection All-Star Workout Day jersey. Wear the jersey of your favorite All-Star player. This new jersey is designed for the ultimate in performance and comfort. Tony said it was. Call 866 MLB Game today. Tony always wears his, and he's always cool and collected and comfortable.
Thank you, Dave.
John Maine is the new pitcher for Team USA. 22 years old, out of the Baltimore Orioles organization. He was the Conference USA Pitcher of the Year in 2001, but last year had a disappointing campaign. He should obviously improve this year.
Sometimes teams get fooled when pitchers in their draft years struggle because they're looking at the radar guns and everything in the crowd. This guy was considered to be first, maybe a sandwich pick his sophomore year, and then he struggled last year, but he's had a great year. You look at that 22 walk, 126 strikeout ratio in the minor leagues this year. Tells you about his command.
Reyes tags this one straightaway center field. Krenzel is back and making the catch, but well struck by Rene Reyes. He's hit a couple right on the button today. He is 0 for 3, however, 1 away in the 6th.
Does Krenzel have the look or what? He looks like a player.
Like he's played, yeah. Like he's been to the show before.
Well, you saw him pause on that fly ball just to measure it. He had all the confidence in the world. There was no panic.
Yep.
He didn't start in. He didn't go right, left. Just took a nice long look. Very cool out there.
And I'm sure for all these guys, they're just absorbing all of this stuff and realizing they can't be much different.
LaForest with a high fly, and there goes Krenzel again. And now he's going to be called off by Sizemore, who makes the catch, and there are 2 away. So 2 fast outs by John Maine, who is 6'4", about 190 pounds, out of UNC Charlotte. Has a fastball in the low 90s. Good slider, good changeup, and a curveball. Carlton Fisk is going to get him out, though. Franklin Gutierrez, who is a home run threat, coming up next for the World Team. So we'll be back in Chicago in a moment.
The stakes are raised. The intensity is back. This time, it counts. They borrow and deal. Carries coming on too strong.
These people are horrible.
Harry can be a little too aggressive.
And Eric's just plain bugging.
I don't want to jeopardize the task because I'm fighting with Eric.
They borrow and deal too. 8 Eastern, Tuesday on ESPN.
It is the city of big shoulders, isn't it? 2-2. We're all tied up here. The All-Star Futures Game presented by Radio Shack. And out of the bullpen for Team USA is Preston Larison from the Detroit Tigers organization. Now, he's 22 years old, 3 years in the pros, and I think we're going to see him pretty quick. Certainly Peter believes that's the case in September. His 1-loss record has to be misleading. 1-10 with a .532 earned run average. This is considered a showcase for the best minor leaguers, but the Detroit Tigers obviously having a dismal year at the major league level.
Well, of course, they do have the Bondermans and guys like that are in the big leagues that have rushed up to the major leagues. They've got 3 Rule 5 draft guys on the roster right now. Larison almost made the team in spring training. I mean, he was a very good college pitcher at Evansville, sinker guy. They you know, he came down to his last start in spring training. So he's just gotten off to a bad start, and, you know, maybe it's infectious through the organization.
Well, he gives up a base hit to Franklin Gutierrez, his 2nd hit of the day. And we'll get a look at Huber next. Justin Huber, who hails from Emerald, Australia. I'll bet it's just gorgeous in Emerald, Australia. He grew up in a town in the southernmost part of Australia, about an hour's drive from Melbourne.
It's probably pretty cold right now. It's winter there.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
But it's a good place to be in January, I can tell you that.
Well, he played for one of the premier clubs in a suburb of Melbourne. The Upwey Fern Tree Gully was the name of the team. That's a tough one to get across the front of a jersey, but guys like Dave Nilsson, Graham Lloyd, they were his idols. He said they paved the way for a lot of Australians. They've given people like himself, like Justin Huber, the opportunity to play. He says they opened the scouts' eyes and proved that Australians could play professional baseball. That one sneaks away from Mathis, and the runner will move up. Gutierrez is into 2nd. That's the go-ahead run there.
Well, the Red Sox, Craig Shipley, who's active in all parts of that organization, who is from Sydney, believes that Huber's got some of the best hitting mechanics of any young catcher he's seen in a long time. It just takes time. You play a different game. You don't play that much over there to learn the strike zone, and I mean, he's learning not to swing at everything that comes across.
Yeah, didn't even have a high school team to play on. He cuts right through that pitch. And so to count 2-1 with 1 out. Huber's numbers at Binghamton and St. Lucie. St. Lucie, the A-ball team for the Mets. 279 with 10 home runs, so he's shown some power. That's down low. Alex Rios, who's already hit a home run in this ball game, that was back in the 5th inning. He's the on-deck hitter. Rios from the Toronto organization. You could see a guy like Alex Rios growing into that body and becoming a legitimate home run hitter.
That's exactly what's happened. He's, you know, the long arm, skinny guy. It takes some time.
Now, is that something only scouts and general managers, Tony, do well, or the rest of us, the untrained eyes, so to speak, we can sit up here and say, well, wait, that kid, if he puts on another 30, 40 pounds, look out.
It is, and it's they call it projection. You have to be able to project how guys, especially like a high school guy, a young player, how they're going to feel into their body. You know, are they going to be taller or are they going to stay the same?
Punch to the right side. Barfield with it. In time at first base, and the side is retired, so no runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning in the Futures game, tied at 2. Well, this is a 7-inning game, so this one is in the very late stages. Bottom of the 6th inning in Chicago, the Radio Shack All-Star Futures game for 2003. It's certainly been a launching pad for Major League stars of the future. Alfonso Soriano had one of the most incredible performances in this game, and it's now 5-year history. Certainly Barry Zito and Adam Dunn, Lance Berkman, many others. And Travis Blackley is the new pitcher. He is from Australia. He is with the Seattle Mariners organization. The 20-year-old is 12-3 at Double-A San Antonio.
Another guy with very good stuff. And the Mariners, remarkable organization, and they're very smart because they so emphasize pitching. But another guy that a couple of the hitters in the Texas League told me very, very difficult to pick up.
He broke his elbow in instructional league ball after the 2001 season, so he missed most of 2002. But he has bounced back with a vengeance. It's outside and low to Steven Smitherman, who has struck out and doubled. The right fielder from Cincinnati's organization, drafted out of the University of Arkansas. 6'4", 230. He's big, but he has good speed. He can steal a base as well. 2-0. Joe Mauer has already been lifted from the game, so Mathis, the catcher, is on deck, and after him it'll be Josh Barfield. Count on a miss there, and the count 2-1. Blackley about 6'3", 190 pounds. There's a cut and a miss, and he's come all the way back on Smitherman to make it 2-2.
Blackley fell behind 2-0, came back with back-to-back changeups there. Kind of using the hitter's aggressiveness to get himself out, but both of those changeups had a little bit of run on the outside part of the plate.
There's a swing and a high, deep drive to left field. Smitherman, did he get enough of it? It's gone. Steven Smitherman has untied it. It's 3-2 Team USA as that one clears the left field fence. And maybe that is your MVP of the 2003 Futures game. A homer and a double for Smitherman.
And all this is a miss by a few inches. The ball's been running away. That ball's up. And he gets extended on it. Puts a good swing on it. Hits it out of ballpark. First 4 pitches he threw him had a little bit of run, running away from him, and that's a miss. And usually what happens in games when you miss, it gets hit hard.
So that puts USA in front 3-2. Smitherman, a strong, muscular guy. He is also a diabetic who is dependent on regular insulin doses. In fact, he suffered an apparent diabetic episode back about a month or so ago. A little ground ball to second base. It was in a game against the Carolina Mudcats. Dropped to a knee. He was down for several minutes. He actually played the very next day. He may be the hero today. Josh Barfield coming up to hit. We talked about his dad, Jesse. Gary Miller, you're standing by with a special guest.
Yeah, we found him, Dave. And Jesse, what were you doing in the hospital last night?
Well, I had to get some fluid drained off my knee. It's just, I guess, wear and tear from all the years playing in Toronto on the turf.
You know, Josh was telling me before the game that he actually remembers games at Exhibition Stadium. He remembers when he moved to Texas and with Houston coaching, he'd go to the Astrodome. What did you tell him in preparation for this game?
Well, just go out there and enjoy yourself. Great players. Don't do anything uncharacteristic. And, you know, he's got a pretty good handle on what's going on. He grew up around it, so it does make a difference.
How proud are you?
Very much so. I'm proud of the fact that he listens.
Now, Josh also told me he's a second baseman. We knew you had a cannon for an arm out there in right field. He tells me his younger brother is the guy that got all the Big Daddy's tools.
Yeah, well, Jeremy's, you know, he's definitely has my arm, but Josh is more more speed type, all-around player. But Jeremy's got a bazooka. He's it's weird. He bats right and throws left, but he hits the ball the other way as well, so it doesn't matter.
How nervous are you going to be when he hits now?
Oh, not at all. I mean, he knows what to do. He wanted to face a lefty today. He's having a great time against lefties, and you know, he's doing okay against righties as well. I mean, you know, he's had a phenomenal season, and I'm very proud of him. You don't get lucky 3 years in a row.
Jesse grew up right in the area. He's from Joliet and still dresses like a big leaguer, Dave. Back to you.
Oh, he sure does. Jesse, Gary, thank you very much. And his son is headed that way, too. And he's getting his wish. He's about to face the left-hander in Jorge De La Rosa, who is from Mexico, pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks organization. But I've read that Josh, very close to his dad, he says, I know he's been through everything that I'm going to go through. And, Tony, he's just a phone call away.
Yeah, and it's nice to have that kind of backup, if you will. I mean, you know, things that are happening to him in his career have happened to his dad, and it's great to have somebody to bounce all that stuff off of. And when you watch Josh come up to the plate here, he stands like his dad, he swings like his dad, and he's not, you know, his dad's 6'2", 6'3", and Josh is listed at 6 foot, but he's more like 5'10". But he takes the same approach.
Well, the bases are empty for Barfield, but a run in on the home run by Steven Smitherman, the Cincinnati Reds prospect. And it comes here in the 6th inning, the bottom half of the 6th. The USA is the home team, and they lead the world team 3-2.
Jorge De La Rosa is pitching Double-A with the Red Sox. He was a guy that when they signed him, and Dan Duquette called him the Mexican John Rocker, which I wasn't sure was a compliment or not.
I agree with that.
So, but and they put him in the bullpen this year. They've got him starting. They lengthened him out. He's come up with an outstanding changeup. In his last 4 or 5 starts, they've said that he's thrown about 85% of his changeups for strikes. And he's a guy that they think is going to be a starter in the big leagues. And there have been every trade they've had, he's been a guy that clubs have gone after. But my guess is he's left-handed. He's got a chance to start in the big leagues. They won't trade him. Bill Selby, one of my favorite players. He goes to Mexico every year and plays. He told me 2 years ago, Rodrigo Lopez has picked up 8 miles an hour in velocity. He's going to be great for the Orioles. This is his next call, so, you know, I can't miss with Selby.
Into the dirt. So the count on Barfield is 2 balls and 2 strikes. And some more of the Barfield family watching and clicking away. Fans as well as loved ones on this fine afternoon here in Chicago. And keeping an eye on Josh here, facing a tough pitcher, but he pops this one up. Cano underneath it, and he puts it away for the out. So there are 2 gone. Now, do you not include those photographs when you have the roll developed down at Eckerd?
No, you include them.
Everything gets included?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And all you do is you take notes, because you're playing in a game where you got some of the best players in minor league baseball playing, and a lot of them have nerves, and you know, there's all kind of things that come up, but you learn from your experiences.
Well, here's one of the best college players of recent memory, Khalil Green, who was drafted #1 out of Clemson. And that name means, that first name Khalil means gift of God. He certainly was to the Clemson Tigers. He rewrote their history books there, in the ACC books. 398 career hits, second in NCAA history.
But as a junior, he was taken in the 14th round. And, you know, I couldn't believe it. And I remember, and I actually wrote that I thought it was one of the stupidest things I'd seen in the draft. He's just a baseball player. He's not a tools guy. He told me that summer he was playing again on the Cape Cod League. He said, I will prove it. And he's done it. He's one of these guys, he doesn't exactly, he said to me, don't watch me when I'm taking infield, watch me in the games. I'm a game player, and that's what he is. And he is a very special guy. And Kevin Towers told me the other day that he's come so far, he's now in AAA, that they'll bring him up in September, play him, and they hope that he can be their shortstop next year, and they'll go out and try to get an impact, you know, offensive second baseman to play next year or something next to him.
378, his career batting average at Clemson. He played in all 268 games that he was eligible for. He strikes out, and the side is retired. But Steven Smitherman, keep an eye on him. He may be carrying a trophy by the end of the day in Chicago. Smitherman touching the ball. This drive to left, and it puts the USA team out in front 3-2 as we go to the 7th inning. And USA is leading the world team 3-2. Just 10 hits in this game, but one of them a home run moments ago by Steven Smitherman. Now, we at ESPN have partnered with the Aquafina Lightship to bring you aerial coverage of today's game. Spectacular views. We hope you're enjoying this unique look from above Chicago this afternoon. It's been a very fun afternoon for us to peek at some of the future stars in Major League Baseball, some of them very, very close to getting to the big leagues. And some of them a little further on down the road. Just hanging with Dad. This is Chris Narveson, the new pitcher for the USA team, and he delivers outside ball 1.
Well, I'm talking about the young Toronto players. I mean, they have so much talent. Rios, John Ford Griffin, Gabe Gross has gone up to AAA. Russell Adams, a shortstop. They've got a guy in the first round this year, Aaron Hill from LSU, who's got a chance to be a star. Quiros. It's already a young team, and they've got a ton more talent.
Rios has shown some of his with a home run in the 5th inning. He struck out in the 2nd. He's 1 for 2. So that shot tied it back in the 5th at 2. So a game of not many hits, good pitching, but big hits. That breaking ball hit the corner, and Rios will take a seat.
Narveson had an elbow surgery, but he's come back and moved up through the Cardinals farm system this year to AA. And he's throwing a little bit better, supposedly, than before he had surgery. But that happens a lot. Rick Ankiel tells me that he guarantees he'll be back after a year after Tommy John surgery. He'll be coming back throwing harder than ever. By the way, Ankiel was throwing sensationally and pitching over his problems when he unfortunately needed the surgery.
He may face just one more hitter in Encarnacion. Scott Thorman is the pinch hitter. He is on deck for the world team. Here in the top half of the 7th, 3-2 the USA. And that's down and away.
Well, Rios has been impressive here. Encarnacion. Rios hit the home run that tied the game.
And this is a deep drive to left field. Sizemore backing up, but he has room, and shy of the warning track, he makes the catch. That nearly tied it.
And then Encarnacion, 2-0, took a really good changeup. He tried to get him to fish after it. He didn't. They green light him 3-0, and he takes the ball. And if the wind's not blowing in, I think he ties the game up.
Did you see that smile on Narveson's face there after that was finally caught?
He thought he got this.
Oh, yeah.
And he's looking and like, man, I know that ball is supposed to go out of the ballpark right there.
Well, Carlton Fisk, the manager for the USA team, was asking Peter before the game, am I supposed to play to win it or just get everybody in? Well, he's doing both. He's going to get Royce Ring in right now, the Mets prospect. He is on to pitch, and he's looking to get one more out. Well, tomorrow night on ESPN, we continue our all-star coverage. Baseball Tonight, presented by Miller Lite, starting things off at 7 o'clock. Then it's the Century 21 Home Run Derby at 8 o'clock. Some of the participants in this one include Garrett Anderson, the Quiet Angel star. Carlos Delgado has had an out-of-this-world first half. Albert Pujols, who is making a run at the Triple Crown. And Gary Sheffield, who I still think is the scariest hitter in baseball. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Pujols has had a phenomenal first half. Narveson still smiling. Well, he got into the Futures game, and he got himself a couple of outs. And Royce Ring is on to do the pitching, looking for one more out. Let's go downstairs to Gary Miller with the manager of Team USA.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. You know, Pudge used to be notorious for the Pudge trudge, going slowly when you were the catcher going out. You got out there pretty quick for that pitching change, and I heard you say, let's end it right here.
Well, we got Ringer out there. He's used to this situation. When I walked out there, it's usually when I, as you say, trudged out there. I used to take my time, but it's because I wanted to have more control of the situation when the situation looked like it might be getting out of control. I wanted the pitcher to know that we were in control. And by that, by the way I went out there, a lot of times I knew we weren't, but I tried to make believe we were. But, you know, we've got the staff here is doing a great job with the pitchers, and we're just hoping to end it here because we don't have any more.
What'd you say out there? How nervous were you on that last fly ball?
I said, dude, you scared me on that ball. As soon as I saw him swing, I went, oh, okay, the wind's got it. Thanks. So he laughed and got out of there. So that's cool.
We'll see how your managing works here. This could be it. Dave?
Great to see Pudge again. He looks like he's in fantastic shape with all of those knee surgeries and operations over the years. He got out there quick enough, and here's Royce Ring, who comes out of the USA pen, and Peter, a guy you think has a chance to be a big star.
Well, I think he can pitch in the big leagues in a hurry. I mean, he's been a closer all his life, and of course he was traded by the White Sox to the Mets for Robbie Alomar, and that's actually a great opportunity for him. I mean, it's fun coming back here and pitching in Chicago, but he's in Binghamton, but they're going to bring a lot of guys up. Well, this tremendous White Sox pitcher and musician, I might add, Jack McDowell.
Blackjack.
But, and it was interesting, Ring has been compared a lot to Mike Stanton. Stanton was in Binghamton when Ring reported, and he said, you know, not surprisingly, anybody who knows Mike Stanton, he was a tremendous help to him about, you know, how to use his breaking ball, do a lot of different things.
Good fastball there on the outside corner. The base is empty with 2 down. Thorman, a 21-year-old, playing A-ball right now out of Cambridge, Ontario. He slaps that one for a single into left field. So this one's going to continue on a pinch hit single by Thorman. So he gets the ring here, and he's all smiles. Cano, the top of the order, Robinson Cano to hit again, as the world team will not go away.
And Carlton Fisk thought this game was going to end easily. These games never end easy. You know, Royce Ring comes in, does a good job, gets a ball up, gets a base hit. He's getting ahead of the hitters here. You know, you were talking about him earlier. Very mature. You know, he kind of realizes what the goal is. The goal is to get to the big leagues. Doesn't really matter who's it with. You know, obviously drafted by the White Sox, traded over to the Mets, and he was just thrilled about the opportunity of hopefully getting to the big leagues a little bit soon.
It's unusual for a reliever to be drafted in the first round and succeed, but he may well be an exception.
Green will feed Barfield, and that's how the ball game ends. The USA team is knocked off the world team by a final score of 3-2. Pitching certainly carried the 2003 All-Star Futures Game here in Chicago today. For the USA, 3 runs on 6 hits. And for the world team, 2 runs on just 5 hits, including a lot of strikeouts. What, 11 strikeouts by the USA pitching staff this afternoon. So if the trend in Major League Baseball, it certainly appears it's going this way, is headed toward terrific young pitching. We saw quite a bit of it on this day, Peter Gammons.
Well, we did, and we all know how fast pitchers can come. We're going to see Harden in Oakland next week. We're going to see Ring pitching for the Mets before the season's over. It's fascinating to see how fast they come, and I really believe this game, Tony, is a step because this is their chance to go on national television and do it.
I agree, and I think having had that opportunity to go on national TV and show people what they can do also makes them a better player when they go back to their respective teams to finish their seasons out. And they realize that, you know, it's not as tough as we make it out to be. And sometimes playing in an event like this really brings that home to bear for a lot of them.
For me, the most impressive young pitcher was Zach Greinke that we saw today, but there was a whole slew of them on both sides, and we're going to award the most valuable player, the Larry Doby Award, when we come back on the field for the 2003 All-Star Futures Game. We'll wrap it up when we come back to Chicago.